Welcome to Travel Stories Unpacked, the travel podcast where we talk about all things from the silly to the serious and everywhere in between. I am your host, Ashley Newton, and thanks for spending some of your time with us this week. We are going to unpack a very near and dear to my heart topic this week because we are going to unpack Ohio. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you might have heard us mention it, and that's because that's where this podcast is based out of. So Ohio gets a lot of hate, and here to help me sort of dispel some of those rumors is my friend and coworker, Sara Rawlings, fellow Ohioan.
Hello, Ashley.
Hi, Sarah. So thanks for coming on to talk about this. I thought you were the perfect person, just growing up here, but also some of your work history in the past, makes you uniquely qualified, I think, to speak on this. But before we get into this topic, I need to know if you know about Ohio being a new slang term.
Yes, I do. And I think it's so freaking stupid.
Okay, I think it's so rude the way that kids are using Ohio now. But how did you hear it? What is your interpretation of when somebody says oh, that's so Ohio?
I think, you mean Florida.
The characteristics you think of with Florida, you think are being pushed on Ohio?
Yes.
See, now I can't even deny that though, because I feel like we are becoming almost two sides of the same coin. And Ohio people love to go to Florida. So it's a big thing that we do. But
Yes.
when I heard it, and I am very old, so I Googled it. I was like, slang Ohio, what the kids mean. And the internet told me that when people are saying oh, that's so Ohio, they mean it to mean that's lame, weird, random, or cringy. And again, this is straight from Google because I am old and did not know what the kids were talking about. So Ohio is getting dragged. It's becoming a part of culture now, just to use it synonymously with bad.
Yeah.
So
just stop the hate. Just come here and experience Ohio. For real. We are the coolest thing out there. We have everything.
We do. And
we
actually,
really do.
I watched this really interesting TikTok that was talking about how the geography of our state allowed us to have three major cities that are both sort of all relatively the same when it comes to their population size, which is, I guess, really rare to see in the States. So, of course, when you think of Ohio, hopefully you can at least think of one or two cities. But the most popular ones, I would say, for tourism are Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati.
Totally.
Right? Those main C's there. For those of you that are listening, we are Cleveland based, basically. We're in a suburb. But that is our hometown, Cleveland pride. But then you also have, of course, Columbus and Cincinnati. I've actually never been to Cincinnati.
I want to take you to Cincinnati because it's such a neat area. There's so many really cool places. One of the places that I really love is Jungle Gyms. If you don't know about Jungle Gyms, you can do a Google search on it. It is a theme park grocery store, to put it lightly. It's amazing.
Which is hilarious to me because I feel like I don't really enjoy grocery shopping, but if it was an experience, maybe I would change my mind there. But something we were talking about too with Ohio and sort of these preconceived notions people have is I think people sleep on how good our food is and how diverse our food culture is in Ohio. So thinking about our major cities there, we all immediately came up with oh, this is the staple. So what do you think is the quintessential Cleveland food?
Pierogies. Hands down, pierogies.
Now, I gotta say, pierogi game here is absolutely strong. You can do super traditional, where it's somebody's family recipe that they've had for years and years and years. Or, you get the spins on them, the modern versions, or borrowing from other cultures and stuff. So there's really nothing I haven't seen done in a pierogi.
So I gotta ask, are you more of a traditional pierogi girl or more of a experimental? Do you want your Thanksgiving meal in a pierogi or a taco pierogi, or are you potatoes and cheese?
I want it all.
Okay.
But I would say my most controversial pierogi stance is I'm not a fan of sauerkraut.
Well, I mean, if I'm going to have pierogies, I want onions and sour cream.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Completely.
I mean, maybe applesauce.
The applesauce thing, I have to take a hard stance on, and that's incorrect. I do not think applesauce and pierogi go together. Maybe potato pancakes, you can stretch the pineapple. Honestly, that sounds okay. But But when I think of Cleveland, I think of the po' boy, the Polish boy.
Oh.
So do you know what this is?
Well, I'm not from the Cleveland area. I don't know if I do, because when you said po' boy, I was thinking about like the shrimp sandwich.
Oh, yeah. No, it's a similar take, I guess. But basically, and everybody, again, has their own, like, this is how you do it. Like, this is how you make a Polish boy. But it's not just like a traditional, like, hot dog bun. It's like a little bit bigger, more like hoagie style. You know
Okay.
what I mean? Because there's a lot going on. And then a sausage of your choosing, French fries, and slaw are the three, like, all those
And
things.
it's all on?
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh
so you
my
have the
gosh.
sausage, French fries, and slaw, and I only had one, and it was during Dingus Day. So do you know what Dingus Day is?
No.
Okay, Dingus Day is my favorite Cleveland sort of thing that I've been introduced to in the last couple of years, and it's a really big like Polish festival. The best way I can describe it is it's like how Cleveland does St. Patrick's Day.
Okay.
But it's just like Polish instead.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, so they like shut down the streets, and it was at a restaurant. I was like, I've never had one, so I'm finally, and it was amazing. Like, I'm not even kidding. It was so delicious. So, you know, obviously we're talking about Dingus Day and Polish and pierogies. So like that's a really big influence in the Cleveland area is all of those like European cultures.
Right.
And they've been here forever. But when I was in Columbus, one of the funnest things I did was go to their like German village.
Oh, Schmitz.
Yeah.
I love
loved
Schmitz.
it there. It was really cool because like not only is the food, but like the architecture.
Right.
It's so, I mean, I've never been to Germany, but it really has that storybook fairy tale like feeling as you're walking through. So that's sort of what I think of food wise when I think of Columbus. But you had mentioned something else.
Fried bologna sandwiches. They originated in Columbus, Ohio, and
So
they're
interesting.
amazing.
We were not really a fried bologna sandwich person growing up, so it doesn't really have that like nostalgia for me. I honestly can't tell you if I've ever had one.
Okay, I got another one for Columbus. Johnny Marzetti. Do you know what that is?
No, please tell me.
Okay, so it's macaroni that you cook, and you put a meat bread spaghetti sauce on top, mix it all in, and you top it with cheese. And it's melted.
So this to me sounds almost like a goulash.
Yes, but it's not.
Okay, so
Because goulash doesn't have cheese.
okay, all
And
right.
American goulash is not the same as, European goulash. Just it's totally different.
Totally different.
But yeah, it's a Columbus, Southern Ohio dish. And I didn't know that until I came up here. I'm like, hey, y'all want Johnny Marzetti? And they're like, what is that?
So is that like named after a restaurant, or is that just what the dish is called?
That's just what the dish is called.
That's so interesting to me. And then we, of course, have to mention what I think always gets associated with Ohio and food, and that's Cincinnati-style chili.
Yeah.
So when I think of Cincinnati-style chili, I think more of the spices that are used. It's got a little bit more of like a warmer spice to it instead of like a just like heat spice. It's like got that cinnamon flavor. It's like unique in that aspect. But I think everybody else thinks of the fact that it's served over spaghetti.
Yeah.
So have you had it that way?
Yes, and I love it.
I haven't had it that way. So like Skyline Chili is like the place that people talk about when they talk about getting like Cincinnati style chili. And they have these little hot dogs. And like when I say the amount of cheese piled on these hot dogs is truly insane. It is truly insane. So
Yeah.
there's no way that I'm going to see these delicious little hot dog place with mounds of cheese go by and not get them. So that's usually what I get.
I mean, I do the spaghetti because you get an even higher amount of cheese. But I like to
Crazy.
top it with onions too, like the fresh onions.
Yeah.
Oh my
Oyster
gosh.
crackers maybe for some little crunch.
It's a texture thing.
You don't do the cracker?
I do the crackers on the side.
Okay, I respect that.
Yeah.
So my boyfriend, who had also lived in Ohio his whole life, had never had Skyline chili, Cincinnati chili. So I made us go one year for Valentine's Day. And we
Aw.
were going and getting our little hot dogs or whatever. And he was kind of like, ugh, I hate going out to eat on Valentine's Day because there's always these huge lines and it's
Yeah.
always so busy. And I was like, babe, we're going to Skyline. There will be no line. And there wasn't. And it was fantastic. So yeah, I mean, all sorts of different food influences that are going on around, these major different cities. And if you have a favorite, like, dive or, local recipe near you, please share it in the comments because we might actually be able to go do it because we're from here. So that'd be awesome. So gosh, Sarah, what else comes to your mind when you're like, give Ohio a chance?
Oh my gosh, there's so many different things. Like if you love history or if you love natural wonders, like I'm from the Hocking Hills, so that is
Yeah.
like a tourist destination in itself.
We've
Um,
actually talked about it a lot on the show. It just sort of
right.
comes up because, like, really, it is. If you're from Ohio, chances are you are going to Hocking Hills at some point and probably more than once because it's a reasonable drive. It's sort of centrally located throughout the state. So it comes up a lot. So I'm hoping we'll be able to give you guys a greater picture of like what Hocking Hills is.
So it's one of the largest open air caves. So it's not cavernous, but there's like a big ledge. Um,
Are
that
you talking
people
about Old Man's Cave? Are you talking about Ash Cave? Or neither
oh,
cave?
Old Man's Cave.
Old Man's Cave. That is like
Uh,
the most popular
yeah,
like hike, like walk. Like if you're going to Hocking Hills, that's when people are always like, "Did you go there?"
yeah. But I mean, there's so many other ones like Rock Bridge. It's a natural rock bridge that spans like that you can actually walk across. Is really cool. Or the Rock House, which is a little bit cavernous, and you can go in, walk around, and there's like natural windows you can look
Oh,
out.
that's
It
cool.
is so neat. Um, so many waterfalls. Like there's so many different things to do down there, and like over COVID, it got so much extra traction because people were stuck inside and like, oh, I want to just go out, explore.
Yeah.
So it became like a super high tourist destination, and it was actually featured in Forbes magazine too.
Oh,
So
that's
I'm
awesome.
like, what the heck? This is amazing. But yeah, so totally check out Hocking
Yeah.
Hills.
Anytime I've done Hocking Hills, it's very much like you're still booking cabins, like usually
Oh
from
yeah,
like somebody's website. Like you can go to like, the Airbnb or VRBO or whatever, but a lot of times like you're just booking direct from some guy's like website or whatever. But I did see now that they're opening up like a lodge, like they're getting more into like having
yeah.
more almost formal sort of accommodations to choose
I'm
from.
telling you what, the lodge at Oh Man's Cave, brand spanking new, state of the art, is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
I recommend checking it out if you're wanting to go there and not have a cabin experience because those could be hit or miss. Because
They can. I've personally always had a great time.
same,
Never had a bad time down there. But aside from all the hiking and all of
right?
like that sort of stuff that you can do down there,
You could do
there's
zip lining too.
oh yeah, yeah. No, I know a group that did that. I am afraid of zip lines. So I've never done one. But I love to like kayak.
Oh yeah,
So, we've done it where you just do like the like sort of river loop, they drop you off and you just float down a river and then they pick you up. But we've also done them on the lakes out there. So like really like if you want to get immersed in nature, it is the perfect Ohio place to do it, I think.
I've always wanted to do the kayak on the Hocking River. Like I've lived there my entire life and I've never done it. So I mean, if you want a road trip, let's go.
Yes. No, I love it. So definitely Hocking Hills, if you're like a nature person, is great. But also CVNP, Cuyahoga Valley National Park, is like a fantastic national park system.
Oh, and it's one of the free national parks too. Like you can just go and experience it. You don't have to pay for it,
Yeah.
which is amazing because most national parks you have to pay like a little fee to go in to explore, but not this one. It's very open.
Hmm.
Beautiful waterfalls, the nature you can see. It's so cool.
We did the scenic railroad. Like they still have
I
a
wanted to do
yeah,
that.
like a person railroad, but like I don't know, like I just feel like you don't really see that anymore. But we
Mhm.
did trivia night on it. So
Oh,
it was a
nice.
ton of fun. Yeah. So you're just like doing trivia through the park and it's so pretty. And like, they have a drink cart. So you go like get your little drinks in the train and it was very fun.
Yeah, we just did a staycation, and my aunt and uncle came in from Minnesota. They're like, "Yeah, we want to go see the park." I'm like, "Okay, cool." So I'm like, "I have to take you to the heronry." They're like, "What? What's a heronry?" I'm like, "It's a place where the great blue heron comes, and they have their little heron babies."
My mom loved that. When we were kids, we would always like drive through the valley and take a look at the
Right?
heron nest.
It
And like,
is
I'm not
so
a
cool.
bird person, but I like watching people have fun. You know what I mean? So like her enjoying it, I was like, this is cool. So now I like them because of that.
Totally. They're like, "This is so neat." I mean, the time of year of it, like they didn't see that many, but we did see one heron that was out fishing. I'm like, "Look, it's right there."
Yeah.
So that was really
Oh,
cool.
well, that's good. I'm glad I got to see it. What else did you like since you just had family visiting? Was there anything else that you were like, we have to do this while you're here? Like, this is so Ohio. Like, this is so Cleveland or whatever.
We had to go to the Stan
Stan Hewitt.
Hewitt. Well, it's not pronounced Hewitt. It's pronounced Highwit.
That's embarrassing. I did not know that's how that was pronounced. I've always said Stan Hewitt.
So, like, when I'm talking about it, I say Stan Hewitt because other people will be like, what are you talking about,
So
Sarah?
it's a really big like it's a mansion
Yeah.
with these incredible grounds, but who lived there? Like some Cleveland hotshot, right?
Yeah, actually is a hot shot in the tire industry. So it was Akron based more.
You're right, right.
So if you don't know, Akron, Ohio is like the capital for rubber and where tires kind of made its thing. So yeah, I think it's the Firestone, or it's either Firestone, no, Goodyear, because the colors in the house were all blue and gold.
Shut up. I never noticed that. I've walked through this house so many times. But you know what we usually do? We usually go at Christmas.
Oh, so cool.
Oh, it's so cool. So they decorate the whole, like, probably not the whole house, but like, you know, give you a sense of what it would have been like to have the holidays there at the time. But then you walk all around the grounds and there's Christmas lights everywhere and you get hot chocolate and it's a total vibe for sure.
Yeah, the vibe there, like during the summer, it was all about the flowers and
the
gardens.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was so beautiful. And the actual house itself, the mansion, it looks old, but it's not. And the really cool part, like when you go on the tour, they say it's all very techy, because they had like hidden phones throughout the whole house.
Ooh, that's my favorite part of old rich people stuff is like all their little like, you know, hidey things.
Yeah, and like if you're sitting at the dining table and stuff and they're like, oh, we'll just call in the back. You know, they had a little switch underneath the table to actually call the wait staff if they needed to like go on to the next round of course of dinner. So I'm like, this is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I'm like, just all the little details. Like, if you haven't been, I highly recommend it. It's so cool. And if you're into cars and to tires or anything like that, I recommend going and doing that for sure.
Well, and as we were talking about this, maybe just the mention of like flowers or something, it got me really thinking about all of the museums that we have up in Cleveland.
Yes.
Like, obviously, there's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which I think gets like a lot of notoriety. And I haven't been there since I was a kid, but I heard it's really cool. But I love our Natural History Museum. Our art museum is free, which is like so cool. And it's beautiful. Yep. I mean, it is a truly, like, that's the whole University Circle area over there. If you're ever in Cleveland, definitely put that on your to-do list to hit our museums, to go to the University Circle area, the Botanical Gardens.
Oh, I love
gorgeous. The Heritage Gardens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're into flower, I mean, obviously there's times of years to do these things. You know what I mean?
Well, if you come in the winter time, go to the conservatory because they have a very wonderful orchid show. Like, it's so gorgeous.
Ooh. You know, I'll say that as well. If you come in the winter to Cleveland, what you have to do is hang out at Playhouse Square. Hang out in our theater district. I was telling my producer before the show that years ago, they had this project to put up this huge chandelier in the middle of the street. And I was a chandelier hater. I was like, this is so stupid. Like, we could use our money for a million other things, like stupid chandelier. And now that I go down there and I see
it's so pretty.
It's so pretty. It is. And our CEO of KHM Travel Group has brought this up as well in the past, that it is the largest theater district in the country outside of New York, like outside of like Broadway and Lincoln Center. Like, it is the largest theater district. So like, that's really cool. You know what I mean? And like, we go a few times a year. They do season passes if you're into that. So like, that's awesome.
Right. And I'm going to go there like next weekend. So heck yeah.
Oh, what are you seeing?
RuPaul's Drag Race.
Ah, that's so exciting. We're going later in the month to see Les Mis. I know, I'm so excited. And then we always go around Christmas. We usually see a Christmas show. A cappella group we love called Straight No Chaser usually comes through. And we literally buy our tickets in like March because they sell out like that. Yeah. Like, it is so crazy. But talking about season passes, I cannot believe we've made it through this whole episode and not talked about Cedar Point.
Well, what about Kings Island? Because, you know, I was a Southern Ohio girl.
All right. So have you been to both?
Yes.
All right. So how would you describe the difference between the two parks?
if you like roller coasters, Cedar Point. If you like more things that are not just roller coasters, then Kings Island.
Okay, that's fair. I'm a coaster person for life. We're actually trying to get somebody on the podcast to talk about this topic more in depth. So I won't like bore you with too many Cedar Point details because you're going to hear them all eventually and my love for this park. But it is also, I just saw this in the newspaper that outside of, or not Orlando, outside of Florida and California, Ohio has the most guests at their theme parks.
Yep.
So that's third state in the country that people are coming to experience, you know, Cedar Point, Kings Island, like that's a big deal. So, I mean, but it's very niche, I guess. Like if you're not into it, it might not seem appealing.
One thing that I think about with Cedar Point, especially around this time, is their haunted
Halloween weekends.
Yes.
Oh,
so like another fun fact that I don't know if you know about this, Ashley, is Ohio has the most haunted attractions in the United States.
You know, I saw that on Facebook and I didn't even bother to Google it or fact check because I just accepted it. It was like 100%.
I totally fact checked that and I'm thinking like Cedar Point is totally like one of the biggest ones that we have.
Yeah, I mean, there's 8 haunted houses in the beginning of the park alone.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's everything. Since you brought up the like scary element, that made me think of one of probably our most iconic locations, which is Mansfield Prison, or is it now the Ohio State Reformatory? I think maybe they call it now.
It's gonna always be Mansfield Prison to me.
But it's where Shawshank was filmed.
Yeah.
And I have a friend that's done the overnight stay. Like you could, I don't know if they still offer it, but they used to offer you could stay overnight and they'd be like, you know, this is the haunted wing or whatever. And I'm really into stuff like that. I don't know if I would do that though. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I could bring myself to do that. I feel like the energy in a place like that would just freak me out. But, you know, we have a ton of filming locations. The new Superman movie just finished wrapping their production in Cleveland, like downtown. And it was so cool to watch our buildings transform. It's like Metropolis and like the Daily Planet. So I don't know. If it's good enough for the movies, do you really think it's not good enough for you? You're not better than Hollywood. Come to Ohio. So Sarah, what? Oh gosh, we didn't even talk about the Football Hall of Fame either in Canton. And that's because I don't care about it. I'm not a sports person, but if you are a sports person, I think you would find good company in Ohio.
Yeah, I think the reason why it's in Canton, because I think football started in Ohio, didn't it?
I don't know.
I don't know, sports ball? But we do have a lot of sports teams in Ohio, which, I mean, having, 2 baseball teams, 2 football teams.
I know we have hockey out of Columbus, the Blue Jays, right?
Yeah. And we have soccer.
No, we don't. Jackets.
Some
sort of hockey out of some state. In Ohio is one state. There is hockey in the state of Ohio. That is something I can tell you.
And we also have soccer too. I think it's called the Crew.
That sounds like something I've heard. Okay, so obviously you can accept that Sarah and I don't sports, but that's okay. And some people here do, like the Blue Jackets out of Columbus. But yeah, if you like sports, you'll find them here. And honestly, we didn't even scratch the surface of all the things that you can do in Ohio. But I will say that if you are maybe a KHM travel group agent and you're listening to this and you're like seeing some of our events that we have in Ohio, hopefully maybe we inspired you to make the trip even just a little bit. And if you have more questions, we'd love to answer them.
Yeah. Or if you have a favorite place in Ohio, you know, just let us know because we might want to check it out or be like, yes, it's the best.
Yes, absolutely. So fellow Ohioans, or, you know, even if you've just traveled through our lovely state, sound off in the comments, you know, defend Ohio with us.
Yes. We're not that bad.
Seriously. No, we're not. No. And honestly, you know, I love to travel. We've talked about it, of course, here. And every time I go someplace else, I'm very appreciative that I got to experience it, but I'm always ready to come home. And I think most people feel that way, but like, I love Ohio. All right. So Sarah, I have one story that I feel like is just very Ohio.
Okay.
So have you ever been to Put-in-Bay?
Yes.
All right. So Put-in-Bay is an island off of Ohio, which already you're like, what? How is that possible? Lakes can have islands too. So that's how it's possible. And I was there for a bachelorette party. It was my soon-to-be sister-in-law. and I didn't really know anybody. So my social anxiety maybe got the best of me. And all I'll share is that at the end of the night, I am by myself in a pirate ship. Not entirely sure how I got to this pirate ship, but I am there in nothing but a bathing suit, and I'm singing "Hang On Sloopy" with the entire bar. And
Oh, is this the mile long bar?
I don't know, Sarah. I don't know. All I know is that at one point I'm on Snapchat singing "Hang On Sloopy" at a pirate ship with people I don't know, and everybody's having a great time. And I was like, that's Ohio. You know what I mean? Between
Yeah.
ending up somewhere random, not knowing anybody, but instantly making friends, and for some reason everybody sings "Hang On Sloopy."
Yes.
That's Ohio in a nutshell.
totally Ohio.
Do you have any quintessential Ohio stories?
Ohio for me is like family and road trips.
Oh, so more
and-
Kelly's Island than Put-in Bay.
Yeah, I've never been to Kelly's Island.
See, there's so many things we haven't even experienced in our own state.
Right, exactly. There's just so much to do. But I mean, at Put-in Bay, what I really loved was like the giant geode that you could walk in. That was so freaking cool.
All right, putting that on the list. We got to do that.
Totally. So cool.
Well, Sarah, thank you so much for coming on and unpacking Ohio with us. Hopefully we inspired a few people to give it a shot.
Yes. Thank you for having me. It was fun.
It was. So, we got to do it once before we sign off. OH.
I know.
And we're going to keep coming back on Fridays with new travel topics, so be sure to keep tuning in. And this podcast is brought to you by KHM Travel Group, a leading host agency for independent travel agents. Go to khmtravel.com to learn more.